Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week, I checked out the entire first season and only season of Vagrant Queen. And this 2020 sci-fi show was created by Jem Gerard and stars Adriyan Ray, Tim Roseanne, and Alex McGregor, among others, of course. All right, so what is the story of Vagrant Queen? Well, it is a 10 episode season, so each, episode might have a slightly different story. The overarching storyline though is that there is this space queen and she was kind of overthrown as a child when, she first took the throne. And so now she's just on the run as an outlaw, caring about herself and, her crew. But then she kind of gets roped back into, finding her mother and maybe, trying to get the throne back for whatever reason. And of course, they're being chased the entire way by the evil empire. So what will happen? Well, for that, you gotta watch the movie and find out. All right, so let's discuss this TV show. Well, with this one, it is, a sci-fi show. So they're just, kind of a TV channel there. And they, hire people to make shows for them. And with this one, it kind of seems like, one of those low budget sci-fi ones. Of course, the budget is not too low, but at the same time, compared to The Expanse or something like that, it's much more, manageable, I would say. And with this one, it has an interesting kind of feel to it all. Like, I enjoyed it for the most part. For the first, 4 episodes, I was really into those episodes. They were really cool. With this one, it kind of feels like a Canadian production, but I looked into it, and it's actually like an American production, but filmed in South Africa. So it has this, kind of not weird vibe, but different vibe going on with it. And another reason I thought this was, a Canadian production was that they made the main male lead a Canadian out of all of the nations on Earth, all right? And he's the only actually human in the whole story, and he's from Canada. He's from Winnipeg or something, and I don't know. It's just one of those kind of things that you would expect from a Canadian production, but I guess maybe it has a Canadian writer. Who knows? And so yeah, it has kind of this quirky vibe to it, where it is just kind of not a serious sci-fi show, but one that is certainly going for kind of a fun space adventure type of thing. And for the most part, it comes together to do what it was aiming for. So it is a fun one. Like I said, the first 4 episodes I really enjoyed. And then there's a few episodes in the middle I enjoyed. Of course, the third to last episode's never good in any series, right? So of course that one's not as good. And then the last 2 ones, I guess they work as well. Like they kind of come together for the storyline and what's going on. So, overall, it's a decent watch. It's perfectly fine watch. I watched it over the course of a month. So it all kind of, came together in the end. So it does work for what it's going for. And if I could speak to the overarching story of this one, I thought it was, decent enough. By the end, though, I was kind of getting fatigued because it does start to try to be like a space opera type of thing, but not that serious anyway. So there's kind of this, clash of directions, I would say. But the overarching one, yeah, it works fine enough. Like you kind of want to see kind of an overarching storyline in this one, but I do enjoy the ones where they're just, going around on their spaceship, first, second, third episode where it's just them being outlaws. So yeah, it does kind of take that turn where, if you put in the time, you can be rewarded. It's just how much you'll get out of that reward, right? So yeah, it's decent enough, I would say. Other than that, all of the technical stuff really does work in this one. I thought all the costumes were great. Of course, they're minimal costumes. Like most people just have some weird ear, and that's their costume. Some people have a few, dots painted on their face. I think even a few people have horns or whatever. And there are quite a few kind of aliens that go beyond that as well. So certainly their costume production was really good. Their set production was really good, especially in the last few episodes. They have this whole town that they're running through, and it's pretty well realized and well laid out, and all clearly physically there as well. What else? The props really do work as sci-fi props. They look like sci-fi guns, and they're actually kind of have a joke about it where the main guy never charges his gun, so it's always on low battery, and it's just kind of funny. So all of this, the sci-fi actual elements of it, I thought really worked. Oh, and then their spaceship, right? What would a sci-fi episode be without a spaceship? It's called the Winnipeg, and so going into that kind of Canadian character. But I thought it worked. It's the only like real sci-fi piece when it's flying around, out in outer space. It has a little robot partner, and it's kind of cute as well. So all of the certainly sci-fi elements in this one make it for an enjoyable kind of sci-fi one, as long as you're into sci-fi. If you like sci-fi like The Expanse or Battlestar Galactica, this is nothing like it. It much more has kind of more of a Farscape feel than anything else, I would say. But even then, like, not as serious as Farscape in the slightest as well. So yeah, it's something. It's certainly a niche audience out there, but like I'm part of that niche, so I did enjoy it. And I think that brings me to what doesn't work with this show, and that is certainly like at some point, like round the middle episodes, the main male lead like does something just to become unlikable. And so for the rest of the movie, he's like hunched over, he has terrible posture, and he just looks pathetic and acts pathetic for many episodes. And it just kind of like ruins the character, I thought. Like, even in the end, he's somewhat redeemed, but at the same time, like, you had to make a decision to go so low in the first place, right? So that character was just kind of ruined for me at the middle part. And then even in the end, he never reclaims kind of the status, at least in the audience, or at least me as an audience member. And what else? There are, like I said, with some of the storylines, like they just kind of go nowhere. And there's a few episodes where it's, like a bottle episode, and they're just trying to tread water to get to, episode 10. And that certainly is something that, most shows deal with. But with this one, with just 10 episodes, like it's a shame to see that. What else? I thought the bad guy has his own storyline, and I don't necessarily need to know the storyline, but he's also like very whiny as well. And it's just like never really a threat because he just likes to whine and complain. And you're like, well, then you shouldn't be a bad guy if this is what you're going to do, right? So certainly there are some character elements in these ones that just kind of change your mind on characters and just make you not like them as much. Other than that, I would say that the acting is really okay. Not excellent, not bad, really okay. It does kind of come across as kind of not being authentic sometimes. Like the main male lead, like I was saying before, is like sulking and whining, and it just never comes across as like authentic because he's so cool in the first episodes. And so it's just like, it's just kind of frustrating to see how he portrays the character throughout the whole series, and how he kind of lets it slide halfway through. So that was just kind of disappointing. And everyone else is just doing okay as well. Like the main lead, she's doing just okay. Like, again, nothing particularly too authentic from her, but she's an alien queen. Like, what can you expect? So yeah, the acting is ultimately really okay. In addition, there were some characters that were kind of written as, I guess, comedic relief, but it comes off as more cringe than anything else. And they're just so silly, and I don't know, anything to do with kind of I won't give it away. I won't give it away, but there certainly are some characters that just don't kind of fit for their role inside their, rebellion or whatever they're doing. So yeah, it's an interesting kind of mixed bag of all these kind of different sci-fi elements that, ultimately I think fit together in an okay way, but not, entirely. And with this one, I did watch it on Tubi as well, so you can certainly watch it over there. It's fun for, a sci-fi lover, but unless you're, really into kind of more corny sci-fi, then this is probably not going to be for you. But if you are, it's a good little show to entertain yourself with. And as for rating, I gotta give it the okay score of 4. I know that's, a little bit below average for this channel, but at the same time, like, it is just kind of what it is. I thought, like, I was losing interest, around episodes 7 and 8, and I did stick with it just to, get it done to do the review, but I think a lot of people would probably leave before that. That's probably why there's only one season of this one. It also has a cliffhanger ending, and so of course nobody knows what's going to happen because there was never a second season. And I guess if it was, from 2020, that's kind of, the COVID era. And so this one, with it being on probably Sci-Fi, has a limited more release. During COVID, everyone was watching Netflix, right? So who was watching Sci-Fi? People probably with cable, and who was that? So yeah, I'm ultimately going to give this show a 4 out of 10. And with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.